I'm Pat Jackson, and I'd like to welcome you to Cupertino's local television program, Ask the Mayor. Ask the Mayor comes on each Tuesday evening after Monday night's council meeting. That's the first and third Tuesday evenings, in which you can call and ask the mayor a question. And right here we are with Cupertino Mayor Phil Johnson, who's going to be giving us some of the highlights of last evening's council meeting. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Pat. How you doing? We had a real short meeting last night. Very quickly, a couple of the items. We presented a proclamation honoring De Anza College. I think many of you may have, the newspapers covered this, and many people may have read it, but De Anza College was named as the best community college in the state, as one of the top 5 in the nation. So Dr. DeHart was here, who is the president and has been the entire 20 years that De Anza has been in existence, and so we presented a proclamation to him. One other thing of significance, for people that are interested in the whole concept or the whole issue of below market rate housing, we have scheduled a meeting on September 30th at 6:45. It will be an adjourned meeting, but we're going to discuss the whole issue, the whole housing element of the general plan, including below market rate. So if you're interested in that, that's a key date. And then the other thing that's been covered in the paper, something unique in Cupertino's history. It's election time, and the filing period is over, and the only people that took out papers and returned them were the 3 incumbents, which is the first time it's ever happened in the city's history, and it's also probably one of the few times it's ever happened in the entire history of the county. So what we did last night is that we indicated that rather than hold an election where just the 3 incumbents were running, and it would cost the city approximately $10,000, it's our intent to cancel the election. And what we're doing now is that we'll post that, and we'll post the facts surrounding it, and then take action at our next scheduled council meeting.
Well, that certainly is unusual, and I'm sure that County Registrar George Mann probably had some interesting times trying to figure out if that's the first time that that's occurred in the county.
Mm-hmm.
One of the numbers I'd like to remind the audience to call is 252-4641, and you can ask Mayor Phil Johnson your question. Well, it certainly sounded like there were all highlights and no lowlights at last night's city council meeting.
You got it.
And it was a short one, too. I would like to point out that I've heard many good comments about the question on trivia last week. People said that was not trivial at all. As a matter of fact, they thoroughly enjoyed it. So, Mayor Johnson, do you have another trivia question this
I've got
week?
another one. If anybody out there can tell us how Cupertino first got its name, give us a call. And to encourage people, you got to be right. We'll be the final judges of that, I guess, but we'll even throw in a free lunch with the mayor if you can come up with the answer tonight.
Oh,
So,
my. Well,
any time before the end of the program, if you think you know the answer, give us a call, and if nobody guesses it right, we'll have to give the answer at the end of the show.
well, and how did Cupertino get its name? That sounds like a fascinating question. And lunch with the mayor. The phone should start ringing. So don't forget, call 252-4641 and tell Mayor Johnson how Cupertino got its name. Right now, Phil, I would like to ask you some questions that I've been wondering about. And one of those that I've heard citizens mention is, what types of social services does the city fund and why?
Well, the city's gotten involved, probably for about 3 or 4 years now in giving out limited funds to different programs. Some of them are the Cupertino Community Services Organization, which has played a key role helping the city. We give money to them and have done so for the past 2 or 3 years. The Food Bank is another ongoing organization that we think provides a valuable service. The Mid-Peninsula Network, there are about 5 of them. Those are the key ones. And the one closest to home, of course, is the community services. One of the things that we look for is what services can they provide to the citizens of Cupertino. So it's something, I think this year about $22,000 is targeted. Not a lot of money, but in our own way we do try and help out some of the organizations that are providing valuable services to our citizens.
Well, I know Cupertino Community Services is also interested in funding themselves as much as possible. I understand they're having a big barbecue on September 6th, so citizens that would like to support that might be aware that that group is really trying to fund its own as
They need
well.
all the help they can get.
Yes.
It's a worthwhile organization.
Right now, let's take a call. Hello? Hello, you're on the air.
Yes, Mayor Johnson. I would like to know when Torrey Avenue will be extended on from where it stops now at Rodriguez on up to Stevens Creek Boulevard.
Thank you, caller.
You know the answer to our trivia question?
I think so.
What is it?
St. Joseph de Cupertino in Italy was the original name for this area as noted by Junipero Serra.
No. We'll have to see if that's our best answer. You're real close. In answer to your other question, that kind of relates to the whole town center issue. Well, there's a lot of development going on. It sounds like that person hung up. There's a lot of development going on in the town center right now, as it's obvious to everybody. We're about 25% built out. And over the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot more building going on there. Combination of residential, office space, limited commercial, and even some open space. One of the things that we don't want to have happen is to have all this business traffic suddenly intruding on the surrounding residential. And those people have been very vocal. So the intent is to make sure that we get the traffic that's generated from this new development onto. We just we just had to hang up, and I think the sound has disappeared here. But the intent is to get the traffic onto De Anza and Stevens Creek Boulevard as quickly as possible without having it go through. Now, the opening or closing of any streets in that area are going to be timed to coincide as development occurs.
So there will be ongoing development on issues relating to the opening of Torrey Avenue.
That's right.
Then.
Well, yeah, and no specific dates for any. The most important thing for people to realize is that as we do have the development occur, we'll be implementing the traffic plans to help reduce any concerns or impacts on the neighborhood.
So you would suggest that citizens who are interested watch the Courier, watch the City Council action, and keep posted on what's happening there.
The whole issue, I think, or at least I hope, has received a lot of coverage. We've had 2 or 3 community groups in that area giving us input on their concerns regarding traffic. So we've had a lot of community meetings.
So you may be hearing from that caller again.
Okay.
When you enact an ordinance, Phil, does it go into effect immediately?
Normally, it takes 30 days before it will go into effect. We can, depending on the urgency of the situation, enact an urgency ordinance that would take effect immediately, but that's very rare. The average ordinance would go into effect after a 30-day waiting period.
And an ordinance is really a city's law, isn't it?
That's right. It's added to our code.
Mm-hmm. So it's part of the municipal code at
That's
that
correct.
point. All right, let's take another call. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I have a question to ask Mayor Johnson. This is Betty Mann, and I was
Hi,
wondering...
Betty.
Hello. I was wondering about the Marriott Hotel or the projected plans for the hotel. I know they're very preliminary, but I have a large concern about the size of the parking structure. It looks to me as though it may cover well over an acre, and I'd like to know your comments on it if you have any.
Well, you stay on if you want, Betty.
Yeah.
The council hasn't been presented with any plans yet.
Mm-hmm.
Conceptually, staff has been presented some of the plans, and all that I'm aware of at this point, I haven't seen any of the architectural designs or anything else. I'm aware of the concept, what they need in terms of rooms and number of towers, and what the potential build-out might be. I haven't seen any of the parking, and to be honest with you, it's something I haven't even thought about yet. You mentioned it covers about an acre.
It's very difficult because they are preliminary plans.
Do you know how many stories the parking itself would be?
It looks like one may be subground and the other 2 would be above ground.
Mm-hmm. I know that there's the intent is to have the hotel and towers.
Yeah.
And then, in fact, 2 towers. And between the 2, I guess they want to have a convention center And I'm assuming that's where the parking would go. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the parking will go around it, but what it looks like to me is that it's going to be a huge flat area, and even though it will be landscaped and treated as a pedestrian throughway or parkway, there are a lot of ramifications to so much ground covered by a cement structure.
Well, from what I've heard, we'll be seeing it in the next couple months. Planning Commission scheduled to see it, I think, at the end of September, which means the council will probably be talking about it in October.
Do they have any, if everything were to go fairly smooth, do you have an idea of when they expect to open?
Well,
2 years?
that's a good theoretical question. Going smoothly around here can take a while sometimes. From talking to Burrell's indicated that Marriott's is committed to moving forward as fast as they can.
Yes.
So I don't think there's not going to be any waiting period of a year or two. I think they're going to come to us this year with the plans, trying to get a decision, and from start to finish, it's probably going to be a 2 or 3 year project.
Well, that's a very helpful question, Betty, because I know many people are wondering about those very things. So thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Okay, Betty.
Mayor Johnson, one of the areas that I think many citizens will be wondering about soon is what can we expect in terms of the development around the hotel area?
In terms of the Valco complex itself?
Yes.
Well, as you're aware, Valco is in the process, I don't know if it's actually happened yet, but of signing a final agreement with Marriott's. And if everything goes well, Marriott's would be the one to build the hotel. At this point in time, it looks like there'd be 2 towers, somewhere between 500 and 700 rooms. There'd be a convention facility, which we badly need. We need an area where we can have, it's very hard, for instance, to find a place where you can have 50 or 100 people meet for a business session or even go out for dinner.
That's true.
And have some privacy. So the convention facility will be key. Parking, as Betty just mentioned, is going to be key. That will be a major building there. As well, there are plans for a lot more office in that whole area, and Valco's also looking at bringing in another major department store.
Well, it sounds like a lot of development will take place, and citizens are interested and would like to know what those developments are.
It's a good place for it to happen, too, because of its proximity to 280 and further away from any of the residential areas.
All right, we're going to go to a break now, and don't forget, call in 252-4641 and ask the mayor your question. Thank you. We're back now on our program, Ask the Mayor. Call 252-4641 and ask Mayor Phil Johnson some of the questions you may have been wondering about. And don't forget the trivia question. How did Cupertino get its name? And the grand prize for the correct answer, lunch with the mayor. Right now, usually we have an issue question right after the break. And the issue question I'd like to ask you tonight, Phil, is what are the liability issues in a city? I often hear people say, well, that's a liability issue. What are liability issues for a city?
Well, it's something that probably the average citizen out there isn't aware that the city does incur a lot of legal costs from time to time. There are about probably somewhere in the vicinity of 125 to maybe even 170 claims that are filed against the city every year. So it's no small matter.
No.
We have a city attorney that the council appoints. The council is responsible for hiring and firing 2 people, city manager and city attorney. And with total the legal fees to support that and other legal administrative costs, just to ongoing needs of the city, we spend about $150,000 probably altogether. But it goes beyond that, though. In this day and age, what's happening is something that's commonly referred to as deep pockets, whereas it's this trend in California that if there are several parties that you can, if the person that's bringing the claim can tie the city in, for instance, instead of the city only being liable for the city's portion of responsibility, there's a trend to go after the person who has the most money.
So hence the deep pocket, is that
That's right.
that's essentially the idea.
And therefore, commonly, the people will try and get 100% from the city, which is very expensive. And what you're finding, that in order to have or to support the insurance costs are rising, and many cities can't even support the insurance. But most of the claims that are filed really tend to circulate or be involved around streets.
So that's one of the main areas that you would say. For instance, if I ask you, what are some of the main areas that the city has had claims against in the past year? What would you say?
Probably streets, accidents in streets, somebody falling down in the streets.
Skateboards?
Skateboards could be one. Perceived lack of maintenance, or something that in traffic accidents, when somebody brings a claim, they'll try and say that, hey, the lights and the entire intersection was not engineered properly. But most of the claims do tend to revolve around the issue of streets.
What would you say is an example of perceived lack of maintenance? That's that's really an interesting phrase. What would be an example of that?
I suppose if you had a pothole that threw your wheel alignment off and caused you to go into the light pole.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps a sidewalk rising 4 or 5 inches and not being corrected. So that, there's a lot of variety to the claims that are filed.
Well, and I know one of the things that a city has to be concerned about is, one, citizens do like to have lovely trees, but trees unfortunately have roots, and very often that is a problem with sidewalks. Right now, let's take a call. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, yes, thank you. I would like to ask Mayor Johnson about something he mentioned at the beginning of the program. He was talking about below market rate financing, and as a hopefully potential homeowner in the Cupertino area, I was wondering if you could basically explain what that is and how people might take advantage of it.
Well, thank you, caller.
Mm-hmm. The council has been committed to having a below market rate housing. All that simply, to put it simply, the philosophy behind that is we're concerned about making sure that we have a mix of people that can afford to live in Cupertino. One of the things that you're finding is that first-time home buyers or young people, or even senior citizens, are being squeezed out of the marketplace.
We're becoming a look-alike population in Cupertino.
An upper-class look-alike
Yes.
population, and that's a concern to us. And we want to make sure that there's a mix of housing, and we don't shut anybody out of the community. So that's the philosophy behind it. Now, what we've tended to do in the past is, and it hasn't always worked, we're not happy with the program. And we're going through the process of looking at some different recommendations and ways of carrying it out. But in the past, we've said that where there are more than 10 units to a development or a project, 10% of that has to be set aside for below market rate housing. That hasn't worked. We probably have maybe 30 units so far, potential build-out maybe of 115 units. It's not a gigantic program. The developers have felt that it's sometimes too restrictive and they have to pass the costs along to the other houses that are in the area. So we're looking, and the other night we were presented with about 10 or 12 different options that we could implement. So if you are concerned, and we'd really appreciate your input, so if you could come to the September 30th meeting, hopefully we'll be able to resolve what course we're going to take over the next few years.
Okay, well, I appreciate your input, and I will try to make it to that meeting.
Good.
Thank you.
Hope to see you there.
Well, great.
Okay, bye-bye.
We may have a new citizen here in Cupertino due to that information.
Hope so.
You might mention to the audience, too, that if someone like this caller is interested in finding out more about that, who should they call at the city?
Call the planning department and ask for Sonia. And Sonia can probably, she's there 5 days a week. If she's not there, the planning department will be able to direct you to somebody else that can back her up in her absence. Or call any one of the city council members.
Good, because that way they could get some information right away on how to
Especially
go about that.
this is a hot issue.
Yes.
So if people do have any comments, I think each one of the council members would appreciate having some input.
Right. So don't forget, call 252-4641 and ask the mayor the question that you've been wondering about. But most of all, don't forget the trivia question. How did Cupertino get its name? And the prize? Lunch with the mayor. So we're expecting you to pick up your phone and join us in looking at this trivia question today. I'd like to ask you, Phil, about something I've been curious about, and I know there are other people that feel similarly in the town. What is the policy in our city regarding drive-up restaurants? Is this something Cupertino is going to encourage, or is this something they're going to discourage?
There's nothing against it. Informally, we've never encouraged it. In fact, years ago, for a while, when pollution was really a top concern, there was a trend away from drive-up windows.
And no roller skates that go with that.
All right. We have McDonald's on Homestead near Stelling has a drive-up facility that we recently approved. There's also a drive-through photomat. So there's nothing against it. It's not something that we actively pursue, and we're very tough on anybody trying to put one in.
So it isn't necessarily encouraged or discouraged, but it essentially is you look at each one of those issues as a separate item.
It's an option, and if it's done correctly, then we'll approve it.
Great. Another area that I've heard many citizens express concern about is chemical leaks. Now, Cupertino had some, it was actually in the top 25, as I understand it, of those cities that had concerns. What is our policy toward hazardous material storage?
Well, there's actually, the city has an ordinance on the books, hazard ordinance, that's actually stricter than what the state has.
Is that right?
That's
I didn't
right.
realize that
So,
Cupertino was really putting a strong effort in this area.
So we're actually stricter in enforcing it than the state. Now, in terms of the specific leaks that you mentioned, those are being monitored by the state and by the county. There's also a team that's evaluating, this is going to take some time, but there's a team that's evaluating what recourses or what solutions are available and can be implemented and at what cost. That's happening. The most important thing, I think, for anybody listening is that there's no danger to our water table, that the specific sites are being monitored, and there will be solutions, but there's no danger. And on an ongoing basis, it's something that we're very aware about and very concerned. And to date, all the businesses have been very cooperative with the city, county, and state in helping resolve the problem.
So essentially, there are people from the state here who help monitor those sites in Cupertino.
On a regular basis, that's right.
So that citizens can feel, yes, something is happening in that area.
Now, we also monitor each company on a regular basis.
I see. So Cupertino, in addition to the state monitoring.
The whole issue, sometimes you always get concerned because you read about a particular incident and then it dies. You don't see anything about it. This is something that I think has had a high level of visibility and will continue to. Great.
I think that one of the areas that I think that another area that I've heard citizens mention is, it sounds rather interesting, in the fact, what can we do about the smell in our water? Maybe you haven't had that question before, but I have heard it. Or had you noticed it?
I haven't noticed it. I haven't had any phone calls either. The county water district had, and this also had received some publicity, but had changed one of the chemicals that they put into the water supply. They reversed that, and they're back to using chlorine. I don't think you'll notice any odor.
And we're all familiar with chlorine, so that doesn't smell bad. All right, I'd like to take another call. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Hello?
Oh, no, we lost somebody.
Did we lose somebody right there? Well, I think that answer will help many people because we have become used to having excellent water supply, and I think that will make people feel a little easier about
The
it.
district is excellent in notifying people whenever there are any changes.
So that will really help. Well, Mayor Johnson, the big moment has come. The big question about how did Cupertino get its name?
First caller was close, and Pat, I'll have to let you be the judge. A handy little book that I use all the time is the Cupertino Chronicle, and you can get this in town. But on the second Anza expedition back in 1776, and I'll read from it. Having successfully brought a community of men, women, and children hundreds of miles from Sonora to Monterey, the second Anza expedition was almost at its end. Having left the weary travelers on the coast, Anza had taken Font, and Font, who was along to record the journey and had a diary, had taken Font and 18 men to explore the port of San Francisco, where they founded the Presidio of St. Francis. Cupertino wasn't a fit settlement in their eyes for a fort. But the Indians flourished in the area, and Font christened the creek. That was Font. Our previous scholar said, who did he mention? He mentioned somebody
He
else.
mentioned, yes, he mentioned.
Father Sierra.
That's right.
That's right. Well, anyway, Font christened the creek next to the 93rd encampment site, the Aurora San Joseph Cupertino, after his patron San Giuseppe, San Joseph, of Cupertino, Italy. So the caller is close. What do you think, Pat?
Yes, I think that citizen must be given a lunch with the mayor. I think he's so close, he's beyond warm.
And also, Cupertino is the Latin spelling of the Italian village that translates into little cover. So another tiny piece of information.
Yes, about our famous city and the name that goes with it. Well, we want to thank all of you for calling this evening. And don't forget that we'll be having our program again, Ask the Mayor, and call 252-4641. And you can ask the mayor most any question. As you can see, he has many of the answers that go with it. So tune in again and be sure and join us. And don't forget the trivia question. It will be there next time.
Okay.
All right?
Good night,
Very
everyone.
nice. Good night.
Thanks, Pat.